Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today. As usual, you guys know the deal on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting history, guys. Stop bending them reality. And in this video, we're going to talk about something that I've heard in the past about Michael Jordan being labeled as the greatest of all time before he had won any championships, and how that's a contradiction of a lot of what Michael Jordan fans talk about today. And, oh, Michael Jordan got 6 championships, Michael Jordan 6-0. And you'll hear people talk about Michael Jordan was being called the greatest of all time before he even won. And now you guys talk about championships and blah, 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 blah. And we know it's the LeBron James fan club. It's always the LeBron James fan club members that talk about the championships and how it's a team accomplishment, right? And how they want to talk about how many times LeBron James went to the championship, but they don't want to talk about the losses, right? It's the LeBron James fans. And I've heard this before. Once again, shout out to all you guys out there, man. We're going to talk about this in this video, man. We're going to break this down. Michael Jordan being called the greatest of all time before he won anything. And really, was there a definitive greatest of all time before Michael Jordan became the greatest of all time, man? We're going to talk about this because really, these people, once again, they're trying to create a false narrative, guys. They're trying to rewrite the history, guys. I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states, man. Shout out to all you guys out there, everyone that's been supporting my channel. I am truly, truly humbled, guys, but all support, man. For real, it means a lot, guys. You guys, like I said, everybody in the membership, shout out to you guys, man. Like I said, I'm truly humbled, man, for real. You guys commenting, liking my videos. It means a lot, for real. And you guys know, you guys are the true basketball fans standing up. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, I wanted to do a video on this narrative that I hear a lot of the LeBron James fan club members talk about in relation to Michael Jordan and this greatest of all time debate, right? They try to take away from the debate by making it not about the championships, or making it seem as if the Michael Jordan fans only talk about championships as it pertains to LeBron James. Because the LeBron James fans, more than any other fan base, they don't seem to understand that debates are changed and are different between the players you're debating. So if a player won more championships than another player that you're debating against, for whatever the topic is, then you might use championships in that debate. But if another player has more championships than the player that you're trying to debate against, then maybe you won't use the championships in your debate, or you'll bring it up, but it won't be your main point. There's other things that you can use to debate against this other player. Every debate is different based off of who you're debating against. If you're debating against Bill Russell, and this is what the LeBron James fans will do. If you say, oh, well, Michael Jordan's greater than LeBron James because he has 6 NBA championships. If you make that statement, he's 6-0 in the NBA Finals, then they'll say, oh, well, Bill Russell has 11 championships. They're missing the point. This is the problem with the LeBron James fan base. They don't seem to get that. When you have a debate against any player in NBA's history, the debate changes based off of who you're debating against. Right? If you're debating one player versus another player, and one player happens to do X, Y, and Z better than that player, then you won't say this player does that better than the other player, right? No, you have to debate it differently, because this player actually is a different player than if you were debating against this player, where maybe the other player now does those things better than this player. The debates change, and this is the problem we have with a lot of the LeBron James fans, and why I say you cannot really debate a LeBron James fan, because they can never stay on topic with a Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. No matter what you say, they'll bring up a Bill Russell. They'll bring up a Wilt Chamberlain, right? They'll bring up a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They'll bring up multiple different players to excuse everything you say for Michael Jordan. So if you say, well, Michael Jordan has more MVPs than LeBron James, they'll say, well, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has more than Michael Jordan. We're not debating Michael Jordan versus Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. If I'm debating a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar versus a Michael Jordan angle, am I then going to say, well, Michael Jordan has more MVPs than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that's why I think that he's greater? No, you wouldn't say that, because it's not the facts. You're debating the facts. So if you say, well, Michael Jordan has more MVPs than LeBron James to make a point, you're stating the facts. You're not saying that that is the only thing that makes him greater. That's one of the things that highlights this debate for these two players. The LeBron James fans never seem to get these things. So when we talk about this angle, this idea that Michael Jordan was the greatest of all time, or people were calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time before he had won anything. And they try to highlight that as, oh, it wasn't just about championships for Michael Jordan. People were calling him the greatest of all time before he won anything. So then how come LeBron James can't be the greatest or be greater than Michael Jordan with less championships? Is what they're trying to say here. It's not just about the championships. And no duh, we know that. When people say 6-0, it's not just about the championships. It's about the 2 3-peats that for some reason has gotten forgotten in all of this stuff. When people say 6-0, they're forgetting it's 2 3-peats. Undefeated, 6-0. That's impressive. That's all we're highlighting. They're not saying that's the only thing to be talked about or that's the only thing. But now let's think about this, because they're missing this, and let's take it a step further. When we think about Michael Jordan, and people talk about him being the greatest of all time or being called the greatest of all time before he won anything, let's think about Bobby Knight, right? Calling Michael Jordan the greatest basketball player he ever saw before he even played in the NBA. And someone might use that to say, oh, they were calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time. He didn't win anything. That's disrespectful to all the other great players. No, that's an opinion that Bobby Knight came to based off of what? Watching Michael Jordan every single day in the Olympic practices. Watching him battle. And what did he say about Michael Jordan? It wasn't just about Michael Jordan's athleticism. And he was like, yo, man, this guy could jump through the gym and he could sprint and he could do all this stuff. He was so quick. That wasn't just it, because there were a lot of guys that could jump out the gym. There were a lot of guys that were quick, that could run fast. There were a lot of guys that had great athleticism over the years that Bobby Knight had seen. But it was the other things along with that that made Michael Jordan the greatest player he ever seen. What did Bobby Knight talk about? The competitor. He said that he was the greatest competitor he had ever seen. The greatest competitor. That was the one thing that stood out to me when you listen to him talk. When he talked about Michael Jordan, the athlete, and his ability to get better. He said it was the competitive drive in him that he said was unmatched, that he had never seen before. These are the things that people knew, that why they knew Michael Jordan would become a winner. That's why we laugh when they say he's 1-9 without Pippen. He'd never do anything without Scottie. Oh, he never won without Scottie Pippen. Michael Jordan never won because he didn't have any help. He just needed some help. Everyone understood that. Everyone understood that. People who thought that Michael Jordan was the greatest of all time before he won anything, it was based off of what, guys? Based off of the things he was doing on the court that they had never seen anybody do. People forget to mention that Michael Jordan changed the game, guys. He changed the game from a big man game, an inside-outside game, to a game where you could win with someone on the perimeter who could lead the league in scoring while winning championships. No one else has been able to duplicate that since, and no one did that before. No guard has ever been able to do these things. Not Oscar Robertson, not Jerry West. None of these guys, man. None of them could do what Michael Jordan was doing. It was Michael Jordan on the perimeter that was able to win championships, lead the league in scoring. Consecutively, continuously, consistently. All of those things, guys. This is why there were people calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time. But when people make that statement, oh, there were people calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time before he even won, they're making it seem as if everyone labeled Michael Jordan the greatest of all time. Which is another thing, once again, that like I said, they're being disingenuous and they're trying to create a false narrative. Everyone wasn't calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time in 1989 or 1990, like I heard some of these people say, 1990, 1991. It took time. And once again, these were small groups of people saying this. Even to this day, there are small groups of people who don't think that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. There are people out there that think Jerry West is the greatest of all time, or that think Oscar Robertson, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Will Chamberlain, right? Or Bill Russell. There are different people out there who think these players are the greatest of all time. Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. People out there believe that these players are the greatest of all time. LeBron James. These are small groups of people. Most people, if you took a poll, if you put all these names up, the top 10 greatest players of all time, whatever the case may be, if you put a poll up, most people are going to put Michael Jordan. He's going to get a majority of the votes. Now, these days, back in 1989, that would not have been the case. It would not have been the case. Would he have gotten votes? Absolutely. But there would have been people voting for Elgin Baylor and for Jerry West and for Oscar Robertson and for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and for Wilt Chamberlain and for Bill Russell. They would have been voting for these guys over Michael Jordan in 1989. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, they would have gotten votes over Michael Jordan. Dr. J, these players would have gotten more votes than Michael Jordan in 89, in 90, in 91, in 92. It was still a thing. Michael Jordan, once he started to win championships, it wasn't as if Michael Jordan won one championship and then that was it. The man won 3 in a row. Literally won 3 in a row and retired. So many more people call him the greatest of all time after the first three-peat because he was a three-peat. People act like Michael Jordan just won a couple of championships in his career. The man had 2 three-peats. Still, no one's done a repeat three-peat. No one's done it. It took Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal to make 1 three-peat. The Golden State Warriors, they couldn't do it. What happened? Kevin Durant got hurt. Klay Thompson got hurt. It's hard to repeat. It's hard to three-peat. Right? What happened to the Bulls with that second three-peat, guys? The last dance. They were breaking down. Scottie Pippen was hurt. Michael Jordan was on fumes. Rodman was damn near 38 years old. These guys were old, beat up. It's hard to do. But they were able to do it. They were able to dig down deep, be durable enough, be gritty enough, and be led by one of the greatest leaders in the history of sports, Michael Jordan, who always came through when it mattered most, always did. Never folded up in the finals. That's why he's 6-0, not because he didn't play anybody. So when they talk about him being called the greatest of all time, it wasn't by most people. It was by some. Some people said that, yes. What's wrong with that? Michael Jordan was doing things we had never seen before. They had never seen before. Right? He took what Elgin Baylor did and what Dr. J did. Iceman, right? He took what these guys were doing and he took it to another level. Another level. That was Michael Jordan. He changed the game, guys. It was always big men. This is why they were saying he was the greatest of all time, some of these people. I heard Dick Versace during the 1991 NBA playoffs in the first round, or right, I think it was the 1991 NBA playoffs. Was 1991? God. I want to say it was 91, guys. It was the 91-92 playoffs. He called Michael Jordan the greatest of all time. That early. And obviously there were people calling him, like I said, Bobby Knight before he even came in the league. And there were people calling him that in 89. There were people calling him this. Why? Because of what he was doing and how he changed the game. From the legendary big men like George Mikan and Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain and Willis Reed and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? These legendary big men, the Wes Unselds, the Elvin Hayes of the world, right? These guys that were playing the big man position, the Walt Bellamy's, all these legendary big men, Bob Pettit, these guys that dominated the NBA's history, right? They were dominating the league. Think about Dave Cowens, Jack Sikma, right? These are the guys that win championships, right? You think about, like I said, think about the 80s. Larry Bird had Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, right? You had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Moses Malone. These are the big men, the great big men. They were the teams winning championships. And then you have Michael Jordan who comes in. And all of a sudden, he changes everything, the whole dynamic. Even though there was a renaissance of great big men in the 90s, the Hakeem Olajuwons, the David Robinsons, the Shaquille O'Neals, the Patrick Ewings, the Mutombos, right? The Rick Smiths, the Ronnie Cycles, right? The Mark Eatons. Even though you had some of these guys in the 90s, Michael Jordan was able to dominate that era. Even though you had some great big men in the 90s, it was Michael Jordan who changed the game. This is what people fail to mention. It wasn't like, oh, Michael Jordan's dogging everybody. He's just great because he's just dogging everybody. No, Michael Jordan had the all-around game on both sides of the court. The impact and the off-court icon that Michael Jordan was is still to this day unmatched. That people don't want to talk about. Oh, Michael Jordan would just be called the greatest of all time, and he didn't win nothing. So what? That was what Michael Jordan did. That goes to his greatness. That don't take away from his greatness. That don't make the Michael Jordan fans sound like hypocrites now when we talk about the championships that Michael Jordan won. Because Michael Jordan went and did the right way. He earned them championships the right way. And he was undefeated because he raised his level of play when it mattered most. When the series was tied 2-2 against the Portland Trailblazers, he dropped 40-plus points in Game 5. He did that to give the Bulls a 3-2 lead. Right? In 1991, when the series was tied 1 game apiece, and they were in LA in their first NBA Finals, and they were down by 2 points with seconds to go, and Scottie Pippen fouled out. It was Michael Jordan who hit the shot that sent it into overtime, and then led them to a victory in a 2-1 series lead. Michael Jordan did that, guys. Right? It was Michael Jordan in 1993, scoring an NBA record 41 points a game in an NBA Finals where both teams scored the exact amount of points. The difference being Michael Jordan's points per game, scoring at the end of those games, closing it out. Right? We think about 1996 when the game was all getting crazy. The Bulls were up 3-0. It looked like they were going to coast to a victory. All of a sudden, the Seattle Supersonics dig deep. They pull out 2 games. The Bulls are reeling. But it's Michael Jordan, once again, finding a way to will his team to victory, along with guys like Dennis Rodman, stepping up, making plays. Michael Jordan putting the pressure on Gary Payton, playing both sides of the ball when Ron Harper went down with the injury. It was Michael Jordan coming through, guys, leading the team. Always being a true leader, raising his level play, not folding up, not faltering, not folding under the pressure, not making excuses, none of this stuff. It was Michael Jordan coming through in 97 with the flu game, right? It was the game winner in Game 1, the buzzer. It was Michael Jordan in 1998 closing it out with the steal and the shot. No foul. No one touched the ball at the end of that game other than Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls. The IQ of Michael Jordan at the end of that game. Baiting John Stockton into that pass and stealing the ball from Karl Malone. 2 of the greatest plays in the history of the game. Michael Jordan raised his level of play, guys. He didn't fold up and make mistakes, turn the ball over late, right, fumble around, take bad shots. He came to play. He had his team ready to go. This is why he could pass to Steve Kerr in 97. This is why John Paxson could step into that shot in 1993. They were prepared for that. They had the confidence because they worked in their practices and they knew they earned their spot in that team because they were pushed every day. They didn't lollygag in practice. That's called preparation. That's where you get confidence from being prepared. When I was in the military, guys, and you train for things, you train for war, you train for combat scenarios, you train for what ifs. It's your preparation, the train that you fall back on. At the end of everything, it becomes a reflex because you're training so much, you don't even think anymore. You fall back on these things. This is what these guys did. The Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan built these guys through attrition. Either you were going to sink or swim. This is why Scottie Pippen became who he was. The Horace Grants, the B.J. Armstrongs. This is why he can make champions out of guys like Bill Cartwright, the journeyman of a Luke Longley. Right? Some of these guys are Craig Hodges, or Ron Harper. He can make these guys winners. They can fit into a system around a Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was being called the greatest of all time before he won anything. So what? What does that have to do with anything? He earned that based off of what people saw him do on and off the court. The way that he practiced, the competitiveness of Michael Jordan. This is what they said that. This is why they said that. It wasn't just because he was a flashy player with some athleticism. Because he was out there working, had the ability to work on his game, to mold his game. Like James Worthy said, he goes, I thought I was greater than Michael Jordan for about 2 weeks. And then I realized I was not. That's how long it took for Michael Jordan to improve his game. That quickly. This is Michael Jordan, guys. This is what the coaches talked about in North Carolina. Michael Jordan's work ethic, his ability to get better. And once again, people underestimate Michael Jordan's overall game from the minute he came into the league until some of these years later on when people talk about he was being called the greatest of all time. The man was doing things and he was winning games that people couldn't explain how he was doing this. He was doing things in the game, in the air, that people could not explain, that they had never seen before. And his impact on the game, on and off the court, was unheard of. Still to this day, has not been matched, guys, not been duplicated by anybody. By any sport, man. Michael Jordan just came in. It was different. And that's not a knock on any other player or to diminish other great players. It's just the way he came in. It's just his impact. It's just his story, guys. That's just the story of Michael Jordan. That's just the way it went. And we were grateful to live through this. I'm telling you guys right now, we talked about this the other day, how lucky we were. And we did not realize, guys, how lucky we were to witness Michael Jordan, guys, live, man. I'm telling you guys, to live through that 90s era of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Remember, Michael Jordan was not always called the greatest of all time by everybody. He did not become the universal greatest of all time, guys, till after the second three-peat, man. That's when it became solidified, when it was like there was no arguments anymore. There was no more barbershop talk. There was no more, well, yeah, man, but this guy and this. It was really Michael Jordan. It was pretty much everyone else, guys. And that's pretty much the way it's been since, and that's the way it's always going to be until someone comes along and surpasses what Michael Jordan did. The way that Michael Jordan did it, maybe not the way that he did it per se is what I'm saying, but if you have to do it the right way. You have to do it the right way. And that's the way that Michael Jordan did it. He did it the right way, like many other great players that came before him, right? They raised the bar, right? All the guys who came before him, they raised that bar. But Michael Jordan took it a step further, guys. You guys know the deal, man. This is why people call Michael Jordan the greatest of all time. That was not to take away from other great players. I've heard people say, oh, man, that took away from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It did not take away from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for people to think that Michael Jordan was the greatest of all time, or for someone like Bobby Knight to say that. That didn't take anything away from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, because once again, they weren't based off of some flash that, oh, Michael Jordan was just some crazy athlete that we'd never seen before. It was based off all of the things that they said. The leadership of Michael Jordan, right? His competitiveness, the way that he was willing to work on his game, his ability. All of those things is what they said made him the greatest of all time. And that's what people saw on the court, man. He was a transcendent talent, Michael Jordan, even to this day. This is why Michael Jordan is still recognized, and his brand is still recognized the way it is. Unlike any other athlete, guys, when you see that Jumpman logo, you know what it is. You know what it represents. It represents greatness, guys. That's why people are called the Michael Jordan ofs. This is why, guys, he's the one who transcended sports. He transcended to another level where everyone is being compared to him, all across sports. Everyone is. This is what people fail to realize when they talk about Michael Jordan, how early he was being called the greatest of all time, and how that somehow contradicts the things that we talk about today. And we talk about the 6 championships that Michael Jordan won. That does not, once again, all you're doing is highlighting Michael Jordan's greatness. Because it wasn't everyone. There were still many people talking about Bill Russell and calling him the greatest of all time. There were still many people talking about Will Chamberlain or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or a Magic Johnson or a Larry Bird or a Jerry West or a Dr. J or an Elgin Baylor or a George Mikan, a Bob Pettit or an Oscar Robertson. I remember hearing a lot of Bill Russell, a lot of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a lot of Will Chamberlain, a lot of Oscar Robertson, a lot of Jerry West, a lot of Dr. J. I remember hearing a lot of those guys' names, man, a lot of times growing up. These guys were recognized. These were the players that Michael Jordan was chasing. This is why he's recognized these players whenever they ask him about that. Oh, how do you feel being called the greatest of all time? And he says, well, I never played against Will Chamberlain. I never played against Jerry West. I never played against these guys. Everyone played different in different eras. He's talking about this all the time, man. So once again, it was Michael Jordan himself who recognized the other great legends of the past. But for some reason today, these guys try to make it seem like it's a knock on those guys when they were calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time when he never won anything, saying that he didn't earn that respect. Because I feel like it's almost as if what a lot of these guys were saying, the Bobby Knights, right? People who were calling him this, the magazines, whatever it was, these articles that were hyping Michael Jordan up in the late 80s before he had really won. Because let's not forget, those same people that were hyping him up were the same people that were turning on him in 1989 and 1990 after the Bulls had lost to the Pistons a couple of years in a row. And they were saying, oh, Michael Jordan's got to get it done. So let's not act like the people were hyping Michael Jordan up as the greatest of all time. And then they did not actually hold Michael Jordan accountable and to a standard. There were a lot of people waiting on Michael Jordan during that 1990, that 1991 season. There was a lot of pressure on Michael Jordan going into those 91 finals, man. A lot of pressure on Michael Jordan, man. So let's remember those things. But when we talk about the Michael Jordan, like I said, and you have these people hyping Michael Jordan up, man, we have to understand, man, that it was earned, a lot of this stuff, because of the way that Michael Jordan came in, the impact he had on the game, and how he changed the game. Remember, Michael Jordan changed the game. We have to really stress that. Michael Jordan changed the game, guys, and changed the whole dynamic, right? The whole dynamic of what you thought you needed to win in the NBA. It was Michael Jordan that came in, guys. So you guys know the deal, man. Once again, you guys know the deal. And once I said, that was no disrespect to those players. when Michael Jordan came in, they were labeling him that as the greatest of all time because it was not everybody calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time. He was not the most recognized. It wasn't everyone's calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time. No, they were not. Yeah, there were some people calling him that. Some people were. There were people calling Karl Malone the greatest power forward of all time in the late 90s. He never won a championship. They was greatest power forward of all time. They weren't saying it was Bob Pettit. Karl Malone. Heard Karl Malone's name a lot. Charles Barkley. People call Charles Barkley the greatest power forward of all time. And that never won anything in the late 90s. Right? So let's not get it, act like people weren't calling people greatest of all times and they had to win something to be called the greatest at something. Once again, like I said, man, everyone has opinions on these things, right? But most people, like we always say on this channel, guys, most people know and recognize Michael Jordan now as the greatest of all time after the totality of his career. Back in those late 80s, the early 90s, Michael Jordan, after that first three-peat, a lot of people call him the greatest of all time, but you still had pushback with other great players. After the second three-peat, when Michael Jordan came back, that's when it became almost a fact. That's when Michael Jordan solidified it. That's when there became no argument. That's when it became no argument. The second three-peat. Being 3-0 wasn't going to be enough to have no argument against some of the other great players. But being 6-0, right? No losses, raising your level of play, being the other great players of your era in the finals, right? Being consistently the reason why your team was winning. The X factor, Michael Jordan, being the true leader, the true competitor, going about and winning it the right way. He earned the title of the greatest of all time after the second three-peat. We've talked about this, guys. I know this video went real long, but I don't like when people try to say that Michael Jordan was being called the greatest of all time before he won, as if it's a knock or something like that, or that diminishes the Michael Jordan legacy or what we talk about now as it relates to the LeBron James and the championships, man, and why this guy is not on Michael Jordan's level when we talk about 6-0 versus 4-6, right? It's about losing more than you won. LeBron James ain't 4-0. It ain't like people saying, Mike Jordan's 6-0 and LeBron James is 4-0. And then people talk about, 2 championships, man. And then you want to make an argument and talk about championships. The dude's 4-6. He ain't 4-0. He ain't 4-1. He ain't 5-1. He ain't 6-3. He's 4-6. Those are the facts. Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time, man. These people, they don't want to live in that reality. And that's why I tell you guys, they bend reality and they try to rewrite the history. You guys know the deal on this channel, man. I'll get you guys on the next one.